he comes again off the turnover, and he slams it home! Outstanding girls basketball matchup between the team on top to the fourth.
Good afternoon and welcome to Unscripted with SkoodSports. I am John Skoudris with SkoodSports, getting you set to bring all the sports that fit in to one video. Folks, as always, like, share, and subscribe to SkoodSports on Twitter, at SkoodSports, on YouTube, John Skoudris, and at www.johnscoudris.com or John P. Skoudris Sportscasting on Facebook. Today, we begin the NFC predictions with a look at the NFC East. Of course, the Philadelphia Eagles triumphed in this division a year ago as they went 13-3 to win the division by 4 games. Their only loss to the Dallas Cowboys in the division in Week 17. Of course, no team has won back-to-back NFC East titles since the Eagles did so under Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb in 2003 and 2004. Since then, it's gone teeter-totter between the 4 squads. In 2005, the Giants won it in the first division championship under Eli Manning. In 2006, the Eagles won it with Jeff Garcia in a late-season resurgence. The Cowboys cruised in 2007 with Tony Romo and Wade Phillips at the helm. In 2008, the Giants won the division before losing to the Eagles in the divisional round. In 2009, Dallas triumphant in the division, beating the Eagles in the wild card round and in Week 17 to clinch the division. In 2010, it was the Eagles under Michael Vick's resurgence to win the division. In 2011, the Giants won it en route to their second title under Eli Manning. In 2012, the Redskins finally got in on the action in Robert Griffin's first year. In 2013, the Eagles got it done with Chip Kelly in his first year. In 2014, it was the Cowboys before they ended up losing to the Packers in that infamous Dez Bryant game. In 2015, the Redskins won the division again with Kirk Cousins. In 2016, it was Dallas at 13-3, and then of course last year the Eagles also at 13-3, taking control of the NFC East. Without further ado, let's take a look at our NFC East predictions and who we see coming in first in 2018. We begin our 2018 NFC East predictions with the defending division and Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. That's right, I think the Eagles will become the first team since they did it in 2003 and 2004 to win this division back-to-back years, but it won't be nearly as easy as 2017 when the Eagles won the division by 4 games. Last year, the Eagles ended up going 5-1 against their division opponents. Their only loss coming in the Week 17 6-0 loss to Dallas, where they benched all of their players, and Nate Sudfeld was the quarterback for most of that game. This year, the Eagles will have a much tougher road ahead, despite the fact that they did go out and acquire a lot of key contributors in the offseason. This despite losing a lot of players who were critical to their Super Bowl season, including running back LeGarrette Blount, special teamers Kenyon Barner and Donnie Bag-o-Bones Jones, wide receiver and passing targets Torrey Smith, who went to Carolina in a trade, and Brent Selleck, who was released. Trey Burton, who of course threw the touchdown in the Philly special in the Super Bowl, has moved on as a free agent to Chicago. Defensively, the Eagles lost some depth as well, as Michael Kendricks is gone as a linebacker. On the defensive front, Bo Allen and Vinnie Curry are now Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's a lot of experience and a lot of camaraderie that the Eagles had lost in the offseason, as is to be expected from any Super Bowl champion. But I think they did a pretty good job replacing that talent with veteran leadership and players who have been in the postseason before. At wide receiver, the Eagles brought in, of course, Mike Wallace, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins, and the Baltimore Ravens as the deep threat to replace Torrey Smith. They also brought in Marcus Wheaton, formerly of the Steelers, as a depth player. We'll see if he even makes the team coming out of training camp. At tight end, the Eagles replaced Selleck and Burton very well. They brought in Richard Rodgers, who probably is most famous for catching the Hail Mary touchdown against the Lions from Aaron Rodgers as a Packer a couple of years ago. They also drafted very exciting tight end Dallas Goedert in the second round with their first draft pick in the 2018 entry draft. And on defense, they did a good job replacing the players they lost. Vinnie Curry is gone. In comes Michael Bennett, a all-pro defensive end and a pass rusher with credentials rivaled by few, as he will fit in very well with Brandon Graham, Chris Long, and 2017 first-round pick Derek Barnett as edge rushers for the Philadelphia Eagles. Meanwhile, in the middle, the Eagles replaced Bo Allen with Haloti Ngata, former first-round pick of the Ravens, who spent his entire career there before moving to Detroit last year. Missed most of last year with an injury, but it was evident how badly Detroit missed him when he went down. Their run defense numbers tanked, and their season coincided with that, as they fell out of postseason contention and got Jim Caldwell fired. Haloti Ngata fills in there. They brought in Corey Nelson, a special teamer, to fill out the linebacking core, which probably is, outside of Carson Wentz's injury, the most concerning aspect of this Eagles team moving into 2018, as they got rid of Michael Kendricks. Jordan Hicks is coming back from an Achilles tear. He's always injured, it seems like, despite the fact that he's one of the best middle linebackers in football when he's not. They do have Nigel Bradham back, but he will miss week 1 due to a suspension from a off-the-field incident a couple of years ago. So the Eagles definitely have some holes in the middle part of that defense at linebacker that they will have to remedy and rectify as the season goes on. Without further ado, let's take a look at the schedule and our predictions for the Eagles in 2018. As you see on your screen, I see the Eagles getting off to a bit of a tough start at home in that Thursday night affair. It is going to be such an emotional night, as most of the city really will take that day off. Will anything get done that day in Philadelphia, as the fans will be at Lincoln Financial Field, hanging out at FDR Park, getting liquored up in anticipation of seeing that first Super Bowl banner raised into the rafters of Lincoln Financial Field. It's going to be so emotional that I think, with the question marks not only on defense but also with Carson Wentz coming back from that ACL injury, the Eagles will lose this game. You're going to see grown men crying, women taking their tops off, kids going all bedlam, and I think that in the end the Falcons, a very good team as they showed, they almost beat the Eagles in the divisional round last year, coming to play and winning in week 1. The Eagles will bounce back, though, as the schedule really lightens up after that week 1 loss. They'll take care of business from Central Florida at the Buccaneers in week 2, and then hold fort at home against Frank Reich and the Indianapolis Colts, as the former Eagles offensive coordinator faces his former team for the first time. They'll then head back down south to take on the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. That's a game I'll be at, as it's the scheduled yearly road trip for me and my compadres, as we will head to Tennessee after attending the Kansas City Chiefs game a year ago. I see the Eagles holding fort on the road there. And then a big NFC Championship rematch against the Minnesota Vikings. I see Philadelphia winning that one at home, just as they did in January. The Eagles will get their first taste of Saquon Barkley in a short week against the Giants. I see them taking care of business. The Eagles offense outgunning what I think will be a high-scoring affair against New York. The Eagles will then beat the Panthers for the second consecutive year as they take care of Cam Newton's squad at home. The Eagles then head to London for the first time in franchise history to take on London's de facto home squad, the Jacksonville Jaguars, as Jacksonville will fall to Philadelphia. As you saw in my AFC predictions, I see Jacksonville being a playoff team, but the Eagles take care of business as they head into the bye week, a spectacular 6-1, just as they were after 7 games last year. Out of the bye week, the Eagles get a couple of tough battles, at home against the Cowboys, and then on the road against the Saints. I see the Eagles splitting those battles, winning the home matchup against Dak Prescott and the boys before falling to Drew Brees and the Saints from the Superdome. Birds bounce back to take care of the Giants and sweep New York at home before a Monday night home game, which at what will now be 8-2 is going to be a game the Eagles will have a chance to take control of the NFC East, and they will fail to do so. I think injuries will start to rear their head here for Philadelphia, as they will lose to the Redskins for the first time in 2 years at home on Monday Night Football before losing to the Dallas Cowboys in a game that'll put the Cowboys right back in division contention after the Eagles had appeared to separate themselves early on. The Eagles' first 3-game losing streak since 2016 will be finalized when they lose out west on Sunday Night Football against Jared Goff and the Los Angeles Rams. Coming into the final 2 weeks at 9-5, the Eagles know if they win out, they will win the division. And they do so by beating the Texans at home in Week 16 and then clinching the division with a Week 17 victory against the Washington Redskins from Landover, Maryland. With those final 2 wins, the Eagles finish their season at 11-5, 4-2 in the division, 7-5 in the conference. They sweep the AFC South, 6-2 at the Link, 5-3 on the road, as Philadelphia wins the NFC East for the 2nd consecutive season. Coming up next in our NFC East prediction for the 2nd consecutive year, the Dallas Cowboys, as they will come in 2nd place in the NFC East. Dallas, of course, last year regressing from a 13-3 record down to a 9-7 campaign, largely due to injuries and decline from some of their key players, most notably quarterback Dak Prescott, who saw his interception total rise meteorically and his touchdown and completion percentage drop to expected levels. In the offseason, Dallas, of course, made a lot of moves to shore up their squad. They let go of former All-Pro wide receiver Dez Bryant, depth receiver Bryce Butler, tight end Jason Witten retired, the mainstay in the lineup since 2003. They lost Jonathan Cooper on the offensive front and Alfred Morris and Keith Smith from the backfield. Defensive linebackers Anthony Hitchens, Kyle Wilbur, and of course defensive back Orlando Scandrick all left as well. Scandrick had been on the team since he was drafted out of Boise State in 2008. The team replaced these players with free agents and draft picks. Their first-round pick was linebacker Leighton Vander Esch, a player that they expect to really contribute early on, despite the fact that he may be more of a project than some other players taken earlier in the first round. Offensively, they also brought in Michael Gallup, a wide receiver, in the third round of the draft. And as free agents, wide receivers Deontay Thompson and Allen Hurns are expected to contribute significantly. Hurns, of course, was a 1,000-yard receiver a couple of years ago for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but injuries have really stunted his career. We'll see if he can bounce back now that he's going to probably be a starter for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. Defensively, the boys brought in Joe Thomas and Coney Ealy, a couple of defensive line and linebackers, as they hope to get a little more of a pass rush from Ealy than they got last year with their lineup. Let's take a look at our record predictions here for the Dallas Cowboys. As you see on your screen, I see Dallas getting off to a bit of a poor start as a tough battle against the Carolina Panthers on the road in Week 1. I see Carolina and Cam Newton winning that one in what is going to be a close game. Dallas then will bounce back with some critical wins, including a division battle against the Giants at home and another road victory at Seattle. A couple of years ago, the Cowboys went out and proved they were for real in 2016 when they beat the Seahawks on the road. They will do it again in 2018. Matt Patricia will get a rude awakening against the Cowboys in Dallas, as AT&T Stadium will see the Cowboys move to 3-1 before Dallas falters against the AFC South. In a battle for Texas supremacy, Houston will take care of business much like they did back in 2002 in the first game ever at Reliance Stadium. As they beat the Cowboys at home, Jacksonville will then come into Dallas and with that strong defense, limit the Cowboys, force a lot of Dak Prescott turnovers, and send the boys to 3-3 after 6 games. Panic will start to settle in as the Cowboys will lose to the Redskins on the road to move into the bye week at 3-4. But rest assured, Dallas fans, the second half schedule will see Dallas rise to the occasion. After their bye week, they'll take care of the Titans on Monday night with a big showing from Ezekiel Elliott. A loss to the Eagles on the road will be followed by an upset victory from Georgia, as the Falcons, who of course host the Super Bowl this year, will lose to the Cowboys, starting off a big run to end the season for the boys as they will take care of business at home. 3 consecutive home games against the Redskins, Saints, and Eagles. None of those games will be easy. 2 of them are on Thursday night. Of course, the Redskins-Cowboys is a Thanksgiving affair. Then they play again on Thursday against the Saints, and it'll be a marquee matchup for the NFL. And then a Sunday battle against the Eagles in Week 14. I see Dallas sweeping those 3 games to improve to 8-5 and set themselves up tied with Philadelphia in the NFC East. However, Dallas falters against the Indianapolis Colts as Frank Reich helps out his former team in Philly by beating the Cowboys at home. I think Andrew Luck will finally be healthy by that point, and the Colts will start to hit their stride moving into 2019. And then Dallas takes care of business against a team that I think is going to be one of the worst in football this year, the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then clinches a playoff berth with a road victory from MetLife against the Giants in Week 17. So Dallas gets into the postseason at 10-6, and as you'll see when I do my full NFC predictions, this is via tiebreaker because I see multiple 10-6 squads in this conference and a 10-6 team from out west not making the postseason despite that stellar record. Last time we saw that from the NFC was back in 2014 when the Eagles went 10-6 and missed the playoffs under Chip Kelly. So it has happened before. We saw Tampa Bay do it as well. I believe back it was 2011 or 2010 when they went 10-6 under Josh Freeman and missed the playoffs. So Dallas goes 10-6 as you see on your screen, 7-1 at home, a home record that really was not stellar last year ever since they moved into AT&T Stadium, but I see that changing this year as the Cowboys will move on to the postseason yet again. Next up in our NFC East predictions, my pick to come in third place in the division in 2018, for the second consecutive year, the Washington Redskins. Yes, that's right. I see this division unfolding just as it did a year ago, with some changes in the records. The Eagles coming a little bit more down to earth, the Cowboys rising up to a playoff team, and the Redskins finishing with one more loss than they did in 2017. Of course, Washington had a lot of changes in the offseason after their 7-9 campaign, and one has to wonder whether or not Jay Gruden's seat is hotter than many expect. Gruden, of course, led the team to a division title in 2015, but has been a dramatic disappointment since then. Kirk Cousins is gone after being franchised multiple years in a row. He was allowed to leave via free agency to the Vikings. The team also let disappointing free agent wide receiver Terrell Pryor go, as well as Ryan Grant, another pass catcher for Kirk Cousins. On defense, a lot of changes for this squad. Former top pick Trent Murphy is gone. Junior Gillette is gone. Sua Cravens is out of here, as is Will Compton. Kendall Fuller, Brashad Breeland, D'Angelo Hall, and Terrell McLean are also out of here from a Redskins defense a year ago that was a disappointment, despite a lot of talent on that side of the ball. The veteran additions in the offseason, none bigger than Alex Smith, who was traded from Kansas City to Washington last winter. As Alex Smith, of course, a proven regular season performer. He struggled at times to win games in the playoffs despite strong statistics. He's a guy who has shown an ability to win in the AFC and also in the NFC when he brought the 49ers to the NFC title game in 2011. But with Alex Smith, the thing has always been he's not going to light you up on the scoreboard. He's going to rely on a solid running game and good defense. And I'm just not sure the Redskins have enough of either of those to propel them back into contention in what, as I've said, is a very good and competitive NFC. Taking a look at the schedule, as the Redskins, you see on your screen, getting off to a poor start. I see Washington actually putting Jay Gruden right on the hot seat immediately with 4 consecutive losses to begin the year. They have that early bye, as you see, but that game against the Cardinals in Week 1 is going to be critical as they travel out west to take on, well, I guess it'll be Sam Bradford at that point, as Bradford or Josh Rosen will lead the Cardinals at home over the Redskins. Frank Reich gets his first career victory in Washington, and then the Packers come into Washington to take on the Redskins. So as you see, unless the Redskins can take care of business against the Cardinals and the Colts, they might be in for a tough start, because after their early bye week in Week 4, they have to head to the Superdome to take on the Saints on Monday night. Of course, if you remember last year, around the middle of the season, the Redskins and Saints battled in a game that the Redskins were up by 2 touchdowns late and ended up blowing and then losing in overtime. I see the Saints winning this one at home just like they did a year ago. The Redskins then, off of 0-4 start, will pick things up and move things back into relative mediocrity, as they will take care of business against the Panthers and Cowboys at home. After losing to the Giants on the road, they beat the Falcons in an upset at home and then take care of business from Central Florida against the Buccaneers. A win against the Texans will put the Redskins into playoff contention, in fact, after that 0-4 start, as they will move to 5-5, but the schedule gets a lot tougher down the stretch. NFC East battles against the Cowboys and Eagles will be splits. The Cowboys a winner on Thanksgiving, and then the Redskins shocked the Eagles after having 11 days off to prepare on Monday night in Week 13. The Giants will take care of business from Landover in Week 14 before the Redskins fall to the Jaguars and Titans in Weeks 15 and 16 respectively, and then lose to the Eagles to finish out at 6-10. So as you see there, the Redskins go from 0-4 to a respectable 6-6 record in playoff contention before dropping their final 4 games to finish at 6-10. I do actually think this does cost Jay Gruden his job. That will be a interesting opening in the NFC East. You don't often see them. You saw one last year with the Giants, as the Redskins will finish 6-10. You see they're 5-7 in the conference, 4-4 at home, 2-6 away from FedEx Field. They just won't be able to take care of business, and they're probably losing against teams with losing records, 2-5 against teams with losing records, and a tough strength of schedule there for Washington as they finish 6-10 in third place and will be looking for a new coach in 2019. And finally, bringing up the rear of our 2018 NFC East predictions. For the second straight year, it'll be the New York Giants. Giants won't have quite as dismal a campaign as they did a year ago when they went 3-13 after a playoff-bound 2016 season where they lost to the Packers in the wild card round. The bottom fell out of their defense last year after a strong 2016 campaign. Injuries to their weapons on offense didn't help either, as Odell Beckham missed most of the year, and they had absolutely no running game behind Eli Manning to help balance out that offense. This year, under new head coach Pat Shurmur, things will look to be a little bit different. Shurmur, of course, a former offensive coordinator last year for the Vikings. He was the offensive coordinator under Chip Kelly for the Eagles for a couple of years. And, of course, he was a former head coach for the Cleveland Browns for 1 year back in the early 2010s. So Shurmur brings a lot of experience to the sideline. As you look at the offseason moves for the New York Giants, you cannot ignore the number 2 overall pick, Saquon Barkley, out of Penn State. Barkley, of course, expected to be the best weapon in this draft and take a lot of pressure off of Eli Manning. This is a team that lost a lot in the offseason on both sides of the ball. Offensively, Orleans Darkwa and Shane Vereen are gone. Brandon Marshall is gone. DJ Fluker, Justin Pugh, Weston Richburg from the offensive front are gone. Defensively, stalwart for a decade almost, Jason Pierre-Paul, he is in Tampa Bay. Jay Bromley, Devon Kennard, Ross Cockrell, and DRC, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, are all gone from the Giants a year ago, replaced by veterans Jonathan Stewart, Cody Lattimore, Patrick Omame, Kareem Martin, Connor Barwin, Alec Ogletree, William Gay, and Michael Thomas. And their biggest pickup as a free agent, former Patriots left tackle Nate Solder, who they will hope will solidify the left side of the line and protect Eli Manning's blind side. Of course, the Giants went 3-13 a year ago. We don't expect them to do that poor this year. Let's take a look at the game-by-game predictions for New York. As you see on your screen, the Giants getting off to a good start at home against the Jaguars as the Pat Shurmur era gets off to a victory. Giants then lose back-to-back games on the road against Dallas and the Houston Texans before holding fort in an upset win at home at MetLife against the New Orleans Saints to improve to 2-2. Things kind of come undone over the next 3 weeks with really tough battles in the NFC South on the road against the Panthers and Falcons, sandwiched around a Eagles Thursday night affair and a loss. I see them losing all 3 of those games to drop to 2-5. A win against the Redskins at home has them at 3-5 heading into their Week 9 bye. A tough Monday night battle against Jimmy Garoppolo and a much-improved 49ers squad is a loss on the road. The Buccaneers, of course, as I mentioned, I don't see much success out of them this year. I see them losing to the Giants as New York gets their second win in 4 weeks. They then lose to the Eagles on the road and the Bears at home. I see Chicago being an upstart team battling for 500 and maybe even an above 500 record. The Giants then finish out the year 1-3 by beating the Redskins on the road before falling to the Titans, Colts, and Cowboys. 2 of those games at MetLife Stadium. So as you see there, 5-11 on the campaign, 2-4 in the division, 4-8 in the conference. Big problem for the Giants winning away from MetLife. They have a tough road schedule this year, including those 2 tough road battles against the Panthers and Falcons in the NFC South, as I see them falling to 1-7 away from home and 5-11 overall. Not a bad campaign for Pat Shurmur after a 3-13 year in 2017. I think the big question for the Giants after a 5-11 year is whether or not they keep going with Eli Manning or look to move on to Davis Webb late in the season or in 2019 go after somebody in the NFL draft. Because with a 5-11 record, they'll probably have a top 10 pick and an opportunity at getting a future franchise quarterback. Let's take one final look at the NFC East predicted standings for 2018 as you see the Philadelphia Eagles, division champions at 11-5. The Dallas Cowboys, wild card at 10-6, and then bringing up the rear, the Redskins at 6-10, and the Giants at 5-11. So going into Week 17, the division will still be in doubt, but a road win for the Eagles at Washington will clinch a division title for the Philadelphia Eagles. For the second straight year, the Birds come out on top. That's my call in the NFC East. As you see there, though, they might not have a bye week, as 11-5 might just not be enough to get a bye week for the second straight year. But you'll learn more about that as the month continues here on Unscripted. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good sports. I'm John Skudris. This has been Unscripted with SkoodSports. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you love the content. We'll have much, much more as the off-season progresses. The regular season just a couple of weeks away as the 2018 NFL season is about to get underway.